horse drifted alarmingly in the betting, was, fancied in the morning, continued to drift. It was late on the exchanges to lose. It was something you'd see in a Dick Francis novel, Charles Buttons.
The ground is soft. It's
heavy.
It's soft on times.
It's heavy.
Okay.
Hello and a very big warm welcome to the Bar Stewards Inquiry Sunday Sermon. Joining me this evening for this evening's fare is John Leng of John Joe's Blogspot. Good evening, John.
Good evening, Lee.
And certainly last but not least, it's Essex finest, Lorne Malvo. Chris, welcome and good evening to you, sir.
Good evening to you both. Yes,
and wherever you're listening to this podcast, whether it's just after a big full Sunday roast with the roast beef and all the trimmings, the roast parsnips, the mashed potatoes, or whether indeed you're on a morning walk and, we say something that, makes you stand in some dog feces or walk into a post, I'm sure you still love the Bar Stewards, and we're going to make this show as entertaining as we possibly can. So, we're going to start the show on Saturday's review, which ended up with the Bent Wells, John and Chris, winning the big two chases. The Bent Wells came across. They came, they saw, they conquered the two big chase races on Saturday. What do we make of that?
Horrible.
I agree, because, our tipping is approaching atrocious standards. And,
needs to improve to get to atrocious.
And just to back that up, this is where we can take stick, unlike other shows and other personalities. William Friel commented on YouTube, and he goes, "I'm a credit where credit's due sort of guy.
Right.
I've been listening to your podcast for a while now. Great racing chat, but why are your tips so shite?"
I love it.
That's. We love feedback, William. Thanks for that. I don't know. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, we're speechless. We're absolutely speechless. We said that the Haggis horse couldn't win the Winter Derby, although Lord North turned out like a woolly mammoth, John.
I didn't fancy the Lord North situation due to rabbit short races. So
I know, but did you see the horse in the paddock?
Yeah, I didn't like the look of him at all.
Do you remember when King Swinford ran at Redcar and I had fortunes on in the Redcar cellar?
Yeah.
And Brian was in Australia because they got runners in Melbourne Cup, and they'd left idiots in charge at yard. And so me and John turns up to Redcar this day. Obviously, we had a good bet on King Swinford. I said it's certainty, John. It's 5-4 favourite. Turns up in the paddock. They haven't even clipped him. It was like one of them.
Wasn't it?
Like, is it Star Wars Empire Strikes Back? Them tauntauns.
Wasn't it of the Addams Family?
It was like what Luke Skywalker were riding in Empire Strikes Back. It was airy as that. So that was Lord North yesterday. He was woolly. So I suppose for them it's a satisfactory comeback. I was impressed with Alan Kerr though.
I think he's won one third there.
And I'm surprised. Yeah, and I agree. And I take it on the chin. I said on the pod that's the way into the race. Alan Kerr, German-bred slop monster, on the quick all-weather track, and it's pissed up. You've got to say Fancy Man's run its race. I think. I thought it had every chance. It was in a nice position. So if you're saying that's 109, like you said, John, that's just about its mark. So maybe a big season for Alan Kerr then after the Winter Derby.
Don't put it past the shirt not to improve one.
Yeah, for sure. It's the shirt is what me and John were saying towards the end of the last season. We said that the shirt, pound for pound, is probably the best trainer in the UK today.
He is the best.
Yeah, in fact, yeah.
He's not strutting about trying to buy MPs or anything.
Never mind the probably. Yeah, the jumps racing was pretty shy on the whole Saturday. But Night Salute, again, defied the Bar Stewards, saying we were all unanimously against that by pissing up in the Adonis. Though I felt sorry for my selection, Teddy Blue John, who was coming to challenge at the last, and absolutely it wasn't 4 faults, it was 16 faults at the last. It was going to be tight, weren't it?
Yeah.
Going to be tight. You know, you could see it was about half a length down jumping the last. It got momentum. Whether the other one would have found a bit more, because it was doing it nicely, you know, obviously I don't know. But, I mean, someone asked me straight after the race, and I said it would have been close, but I'm not sure. I couldn't call it. But Teddy Blue was the hope to get Nights Luke beat, and even that ploughed through the last. And good old Neville and John, really, on Saturday, holding up with the winners. Neville with the winner in Ireland, Carrigsam.
I backed that.
Yeah, was very well bet. So good tip from Neville. And obviously yourself with Hafita Lane. You know, good choice. Very impressive winner at Lingfield. I do like Richard Kingscote, John. I think he's a good jockey.
I like him round them sort of places against the scrappy riding against.
Well, that's it. I mean, he's rode for Dascombe for years round Wolves and Chester and shit like that. You know, I mean, he's used to going round bends. You probably confuses him in a straight line.
Yeah. I wouldn't be tracking one off if he was riding me choice in the Judgment or something like that, but it's perfectly all right down there.
Yep. On to something else, because I've had a question. It was Gurney, who's a good listener of the show, and he says, apologies for my lack of invention, gents, but is it too early to ask all those on tonight's show for their one best back and one best lay for Cheltenham? Yes, it is, Gurney, because we've got the show, we've got the Bar Stewards first Cheltenham preview show where we're going to cover the handicaps, because everyone does all the big races. It's boring talking about Shishkin. We want to talk about the bent plots. And we're going to do that, and it'll be out on sometime on Thursday. We're going to record it Wednesday night, with Wednesday coming, and it'll be out on Thursday night. So we're going to keep our powder dry until then. But the reason I've brought this question up now is because I would back one for the Grand National, and I'd do it right now if I can be. But I'm not an anti-post person, if I'm honest. But for your anti-post people that like a price, Any Second Now impressed me immensely on Saturday. I thought it was brilliant. I thought that said to me it was better than ever. It gave Ascari 10 a good lead turning in. And got up close. I think that was the best Grand National trial you'll probably see. You might get a better one at Cheltenham or something like that, but the problem is it's closest to the race, etc., etc., etc. But I think that's the trial. Any Second Now I backed in last year's National, it would have won the National last year, but for being incredibly unlucky when nearly brought to a standstill down the back, he definitely would have won the National last year. But I'm the unluckiest man alive, so it was never going to do that. So if I'm not on, if I'm not on, and I'm the unluckiest man alive, 12-1, Any Second Now, it's not going to be 12-1 on the day. No chance. None. Naught. It will be probably half that. So that's the bet that I'm going to put up to you Any Second Now after that brilliant trial at Fairyhouse in the Bobby Joe yesterday. Any thoughts on that, John?
I couldn't argue with any of that. I mean, his credentials are there for all to see, aren't there, after that performance?
Exactly. It's course and distance form in the National. He jumps well. He jumps the fence as well. He was just desperate that one fell in.
Yeah, he seems to win it every year anyway, doesn't he? So.
and speaking of the National, Tiger Roll has been announced today to retire after this year's cross country, as Michael O'Mardy has decided after last year's disgraceful weight allocation that this year's weight allocation was still disgraceful, and refuses to run in the world's richest steeplechase.
Don't you just wish he'd piss off?
I just hate the man. To be honest, I mean, Richie did mug off punters with his Bet-Bright operation, but at least he developed a mullet so punters could admire that.
Yes.
I mean, Michael O'Leary, I mean, imagine an evening with him, John.
Well, unless it was taking part in the suicide pact, I wouldn't turn up.
Yes, yeah, so that's poor Tiger Roll bowing out after the cross country. And just staying on the festival for a little bit, David Maxwell, can he ride a Fez winner? Imagine the scenes. The hats will be in the air. It'll be like the Desert Orchid commentary if Maxwell manages to stay on and not fall off to ride a Fez winner.
Does he get many rides for Irish trainers, like?
Probably not, no. Obviously,
winner then, will he?
He won today on Shantou Express at Fontwell, and he, good old Dave. And I do think though it's Cat Tiger that he won at Ascot because it's so jadey, and once it hits the front, it stops. That's the best sport on TV. That could be the best sport on TV. David Maxwell in the Kinmure coming to the last.
Oh God!
Not knowing when to hit the front. Because if he does it 100 yards out, he's probably beat. If he does it before the last, he's probably beat. What a horse, Cat Tiger.
You'd be better off staying at home and watching it on the telly.
Yeah, for sure. Carrying on with Saturday's review, just to finish. Obviously, the Ida was quite pleasant to the eye for a change.
Change, yeah.
I mean, Nick Davis, a Bar Stewards flat contributor, commented, on the Ida yesterday. Actually, it was decent viewing for once. But Nick
normally has to go into hospital to have his stomach pumped after the Ida, so that's really good.
Yeah. And this is the thing. I mean, the Ida is not usually a great spectacle because there's nothing worse than seeing flogged horses, finishing 60 lengths, 33 lengths, 25 lengths. But fortunately for Newcastle, they got some decent ground. It was like it was good to soft, and to me, it was riding like good. It sent that way. And they went a sensible pace, so it was probably actually more viewable than normal for an Ida, which can grind you down, as you know, John. The soul leaves the building. We've gone to Hen Night. Henrietta Knight this week has made some interesting comments regarding that she regards Irish trainers better than the British counterparts. However, I'm going to come to Hen's defence. She was on Nick Look this morning, and she commented that comments have been taken out of context. It was merely that the Irish system is better than ours. I do think for all the waffle she spouted about that, they give them more time, they go slower in bumpers, they do this, they're used to competitive races. Well, she might have some ammo on that. Used to running competitive fields, big fields. But, I mean, come on, the elephant in the room here, that it's weird. It's the only sport I know that refuses to talk about drug use in its sport. And I mean, it's embarrassing. We've had Bob Baffert. We've had Wesley Ward. We've had the guy in America, I forget his name, that got done in a court of law for supplying drugs to trainers that evaded testing, the testing facilities, right? We've had the Kildare drug raid in Ireland on November the 6th, 2021, and Martin Coyne's been on. He said, whatever happened to this investigation? Can't find any updates online. Under the carpet again, I suppose. Have you guys heard anything? The last thing I heard was just what I've read, which is an article in the Racing Post on the 19th of January saying that 2 trainers were involved. I think we did a show on it, John, regarding substances that still haven't been named. Now, how can you not know? If you've done the raid on that property, you should know every single substance that's on that property by now, what was being given to those horses.
I think Gold Cup night will be a good night to give it a good full go, won't it?
Well, I mean, they're not having 20 winners plus on a festival for nothing. This isn't. I mean, I've had Michael Toms, who's a good listener as well. He's a good Irish follower, and he owns a racehorse in Ireland. And I think he takes offence a little bit when we go on about drugs all the time. But the fact of the matter is, these horses are turning up, and they're just turning them into processions. They aren't turning up and winning half a length in a driving finish. The Coral Cup winner last year, trained by the ground trainer that's previously got done for drugging his grounds, won by a potato field. I mean, Why is everyone turning a blind eye to this and calling it brilliant? It's not brilliant. We shame the Russians in athletics. We shame all drug cheats in athletics, and we just kick them out. Why on earth is British and Irish racing above? The Saudi Cup, for example, Saturday. I had no interest in the Saudi race. I'm not even going to review it because the Saudi racing for me, again, it's all juices. It literally is all juicing. The Arabs over there, they're all at it, and it's just not. I can't be bothered to watch it. It just doesn't. It doesn't interest me from a betting perspective. So that's my interest.
No, the context of what's happening in the wider world. I mean, it's pretty nauseating, isn't it, to see groups of UK journalists sort of sucking up to that particular regime. I think it was pretty horrible to watch. So I don't think racing's done itself any favours again by failing to read the room. It's just really, really awful to see, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I do find it frustrating how we don't have to name names, right? No one has to go on media and at the races on racing TV and start naming names, but. Why can't you? I mean, Aidan O'Brien didn't like it. He said it's pub talk. He says it's all pub talk when you speculate about drugs in racing. I mean that tells you all you need to know. That tells you everything. That it's not pub talk. How is it pub talk when Bob Baffert? They're all getting done. They're all getting the collar felt. Australians have been milkshaking him for years. Yeah. Plenty over there has got done.
It's not pub talk when it's coming from Big Jim, is it? Because Jim wouldn't go near a pub because he's such a pious bastard.
That's the thing. So I mean, Jim's come out. And I think Jim, personally, I reckon he'll be disappointed now because he's thought some other people might follow here. Jim will know who else knows. Jim will know who's doing it, everything else. And it's like he's probably disappointed that no one's backed him up. Everyone's took the coward stance. And it's typical of racing, that.
They've all took a step back and said, Jim will fix it. I should never have said that.
Now then, yeah.
Now then, Lynn Hillier. Now then.
Jangle, jewelry, hypodermic.
Yeah, Gemma, can you fix it for me, etc.
Yeah. So I mean, Martin Coyne, thanks for your about Kildare drugs, the bus there. No one's any the wiser. The last statement that the Irish Horse Racing Board said was that we need to remain silent at this time until the investigations are complete. Well, they'll be searching for the biggest, thickest carpet I could imagine they could probably find. They might even get Sue. They might even get Sue Gray involved, John.
Well, she seems as though she's got the right profile. She takes a while compiling her reports, doesn't she?
Well, she's the ideal person for the job then.
Well, yeah, definitely. She's got a big carpet, hasn't she? The carpet's a lot bigger than Teddy's Trilby.
Oh, brilliant. Loving this tonight. Right, we'll move on then. So we've covered that. We've covered Hen Night and the Saturday review. We're going to move on to the Oisin Murphy ban, which I must admit, when the news broke, the 14 months, to me, seemed horrific. I thought, Jesus, that's a long ban. And the reason I say this is because when you add up his earnings, it's like saying, well, it's probably going to cost you well in excess of £1 million. And that's probably unprecedented. And, if this had been, say, a £7 apprentice, it might not have made a lot of difference. But I thought it was stiff. But then reading the case, according to what the case notes said, that he basically deliberately misled the BHA in terms of where he went on holiday and the previous offences, etc., with the alcohol and the drugs, etc. So I think the BHA kind of had enough and just and slapped a whopping fine. But from my perspective, I will say this because I understand mental health possibly a little bit better than some. And I'm not trying to be, I know more than you, but I know because I do suffer. So I don't want a professional sportsman of his standard to suffer in terms of, the one thing that could probably drive me insane is not being able to do my job or not being able to wake up in the morning with a purpose, and I'm sure that he'll still find things to do. He'll be riding out. He'll probably be advised. He might be at the sales, etc. I can imagine being very busy, but I'm not, from a mental health perspective, I think it's a very stiff ban. I'm not saying it's not justified. I'm just saying that this might not be the wisest thing to do. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this. Chris, I'll come to you first.
I thought it was. I agree with you. I think, without going into the detail, I did think it was an excessive ban. I'd probably go so far as to say I think it's too much. Now, clearly, he's a man with a number of issues with substances, and we can only speculate, why he's choosing to self-medicate on that basis. He's obviously got a number of internal conflicts that he's yet to resolve. But I agree. I think 14 months is an awful long time, unless there's something that hasn't been sort of, revealed in the papers. But from my perspective, I think that's a bit harsh. But based on the information that we know in the public domain, it does seem excessive.
Yeah, agreed. John Lane, what's your thoughts?
Well, I've actually had a message from Terry Norman.
Terry for our listeners. Yeah, that's Oisin's Jockey's agent. Go on, John.
And Terry's one of the few people in racing that doesn't message me to call me a shit house. He's actually just concentrated on the Oisin business, so I'm quite pleased about that.
Yeah, he hates me, but
basically, it was clarification on what was said on the opening show yesterday, when Matt Chapman had it was a little bit of a row, really, wasn't it, with Adele Mulrennan? Adele Mulrennan just seems to be somewhere to the right of Priti Patel as regards Hang'em and Flogg'em, which she probably wasn't a couple of years ago when the phone lines to India were tinkling away, and I think Dave was getting a coating, but there we go. He tells me that for Chapman to keep talking about Oisin being an addict, etc., and the ban won't help him and all the rest of it, he thought it was worth clarifying what he'd actually got the time for. Now, we got 90 days for the positive tests, but he got 11 months for breaking COVID rules. Had nothing to do with his drinking, but more to do with his arrogance of swerving the COVID guidelines.
Right.
Now, that is the real question, whether that was too harsh, because they haven't actually really walloped him for the drink.
Interesting. So, I mean, basically, it's where you stand on the old the hey ho COVID thing. I mean, it's obviously some others. I mean, strictest. I read today as well. Some strictest countries like Australia, they haven't. When jockeys over there have broke COVID rules, they've not given them nowhere near the kind of punishment that Oisin's received for COVID rules. But maybe the BHA, like the BHA do, took offence that he lied. And maybe that's that. It's not that you've broke COVID rules and you've been found to break COVID rules, as in someone's just grassed you up. Or...
Well, it wasn't particularly government COVID rules, was it? It was BHA COVID rules. That's the crux of the matter.
Yeah.
Because if he'd been found to have broken government guidelines, I'm assuming he'd be hiding in the fridge, Johnson.
Yeah.
Waiting for a report to come out.
Yeah.
But no, the BHA has gone ahead and had the inquiry and given him this. So it's BHA rules he's broken. He's obviously not given much of a monkeys for those rules. And he's got his 11 months for it. Harsh. To me.
I think how that's been put, I think that's correct. I think it is harsh. And as well, right? What no one's considered so far. It's a bit like when if you commit a crime and you say to the court, "I'm guilty, Your Honour. I'm you know, I'm sorry for what I've done. I'm going to take some time out and try and make myself a better human being. And I've got to come to terms with some of my problems. And he actually did that after winning the Jockey's title, which some will say, for example, like Paul Tompkinson says, basically should he have lost the Jockey's title? But I mean, I know, John, you're going to say on that you don't give a shit about the Jockey's title. I know your response. I know.
Show me a punter that could care less who's champion jockey. Honest to God, I mean, they go on about this. There's the jockeys involved, their families, and possibly their agents that give a monkeys.
Yeah.
I've never found anybody else that gives a flying shade.
No, not at all.
Yeah, it's half true. And I think that's it really. Other than that, where you could, I mean, rather than give him such a hefty ban, you could just turn around and say, well, we'll award the championship to Buick because under our rules you shouldn't have been riding. So we're going to, for purpose of the championship race, not for the actual races, but for the championship race, we're going to knock off your winners that you rode in that period that you shouldn't have been riding, and therefore William Buick is the right. If you do like that sort of thing, and you do like to watch a champion jockey crown and all this, then Will Buick is the rightful throne sitter. Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's where I'd sit on that. But I find it very untasteful to deprive a fairly young man and one of the best jockeys in the world, who, by the way, might be an absolute twat off the pitch, but on the pitch he seems very endearing, and he'll talk to the press, he'll talk to punters, he'll talk to everyone on social media.
The good ones are twats, aren't they? I mean, let's be fair.
Well, that's it. I mean, you're always going to, when you've got a stroke of genius about you at times, there's always going to, you're treading that fine line. They always said treading a fine line between genius and a nutter. And that's where it is. And I do think from a mental health angle, that's my angle. That's where I believe they should have been a little bit more lenient. If they care about mental health, I know people say, well, what's that going to do with price? It has a lot, because why would you want to see this fellow, despite his failings and his mistakes? Why do you want to see? Why do we want to hurt this fellow? Why do we not want to see him till spring 2023?
And what racing doesn't take into account as well, the wasting drives and crackers.
Yeah.
I mean, some days, I mean, the only moisture going in is if they suck the fucking toothbrush.
Yeah. Well, Putin's got a cure for that, I think. So I don't think we need to worry about the moisture content if the Daily Mail's correct.
Full of joys this year.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is where we're at, really. I think we're all pretty unanimous that it's quite harsh. So we'll move on, and we wish Oisin Murphy well. And I'm not saying off the pitch he's got many supporters, because I know from what I've been told in the rumours. But if it's drink and everything that's causing this, and he says now he's teetotal, and that's it. He wants to better his life and get back on the track. Good luck to Oisin Murphy in doing so, but I do question the BHA's decision making at times.
It seems disproportionate considering some of the bans they hand out for other things. I mean, if they're worried about public perception of the sport, you think that I think the public will be less concerned about his breaching COVID rules and some of the animal welfare issues that come up. But there you go.
What's the 31 grand fine for? When you're going to lose £1 million?
Don't know.
I mean, is that to pay for a few dinners for the BHA luncheon outing?
Well, it works out his percentage on the winners he rode that he shouldn't have been riding, wasn't he?
Oh, God knows. I mean, the man's going to earn £1 million, surely. And, I mean, he's going to ride Group 1 winners, he's going to ride Group 2 winners, Group 3 winners, listed winners. Mm-hmm. Anyway. Yeah, I feel a bit sorry for him. So just one more thing about jockeys, a question from Ewan Hutchinson. He said, do you guys think jockeys, trainers, etc., being sponsored by betting firms as ambassadors qualifies as a conflict of interest. Personally, I think it is. Yes, I mean, obviously, you've seen in the real world. I mean, you've seen throughout this pandemic, everyone getting some lovely contracts from the government, etc., etc. Of course, if you are obviously working in the sport, it is a conflict of interest. Personally, I'm not that bothered about it. I can't see unless they're stopping races or they're giving them information that they shouldn't, which is obviously disallowed under BHA rules. Inside information is disallowed. Then I don't see the problem myself unless they're breaking the rules. Thoughts on this, chaps?
It's about public perception again, isn't it? But I suppose because racing is in the vice-like embrace of bookmakers, there aren't that many kind of credible sponsors out there other than bookmakers. But looking at the optics and stepping back from an independent point of view, it doesn't look good, does it? I think the net effect of it is, as you say, Lee, negligible, unless they're hooking horses up for bookmakers, and there's obviously no suggestion that's the case. But it just doesn't look good, does it? It's just another thing that just has an unpleasant sort of atmosphere about it. So I would agree with the correspondent. I just don't think it's a good look.
John,
you've got 5 winners in your lucky 63 with Bet365. There's a 5-furlong sprint, and your horse happens to be ridden by Bet365 ambassador.
Yeah.
Who's slow taking the blindfold off.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Well, I've never had 5 winners ever, so I can only dream of a lucky multiple. But I take the point. It doesn't look good, does it?
No.
Fair. That's fair point, John. Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, should that? Yeah, that kind of just makes it a little bit tricky, I think. Yeah, good point. Okay, we'll move on to our next topic, which is something that I've added in this evening. A solution to the levy and BHA funding. Now, for those of you that are aware, obviously racing's in a little bit of trouble. You can see problems from all sides, really. How racing is struggling in terms of horses being sold to run abroad for better prize money, owners racing abroad for better prize money. You can see an exodus to potentially over the next few years in the winter to, say, Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates to race over there for better prize money. And I think we're seeing that for the first time this winter. It's getting pretty sparse for the better races on the all-weather. The jumps game, very small numbers. And the BHA freely admit that they are in a shortfall of funding. They're basically saying, for example, I've got some figures here that bookmakers only contribute 2.8% to racing's revenue streams in comparison with Australia at 3.4% and Ireland at a whopping 8.4%. So maybe that answers some of Hen Knight's answers why Ireland might be better, because they're getting a lot more cash into the game. And apparently the BHA also say that there's roughly about a £40 million shortfall to racing's coffers if things carry on. Well, the deal's up for renewal next year. I'm pretty certain the BHA will want to change the status quo, which is that they get a yield on profit from bookmakers, and they want to change it to turnover. Now, I used to think this was a good idea. Obviously, turnover's got to be better than profit in terms of negotiating a deal. However, with the dirty, slimy bookmakers moving the way they are, in terms of single customer view, banning accounts, etc., why do the BHA now want to move to turnover when all bookmakers will potentially do is cut more accounts that are genuinely not going to? Why would a bookmaker want to pay tax to the BHA on an account turning over 200,000 a year that doesn't make them any money? So they're going to pay the tax on 200,000 turnover that, it's not going to happen. They'll cancel more accounts. Bookmakers are there to make money. You've seen how it is. That's not going to work. So I've got a solution. Bookmakers currently pay approximately 95 million a year into the racing treasury coffers. So we need to encourage bookmakers to take bets, and we need the BHA to get the model, to get the model where punters are not fleeced in order to fund the sport. So in that eyes, then, so bookmakers pay a statutory 100 million index linked, and punters pay 1% online and off course of their winning bets. Right, like the old betting tax, but nowhere near like the old betting tax before people start. That was 9%. 1% going back into the game from punters. I mean, let's be right. If you win $2,000 in a bookies, how many times gives Sandra behind the counter 20 quid? Say, I'm going to have a drink tonight. Thanks for serving me. Well, why shouldn't that 1%?
Because Sandra's a slag.
Yeah, we massive kahunas behind bar. Yeah. That you've been wanting to, take out for two back.
Yeah, you want to look like Billy Big Bollock, so you give it a shot.
Only on bar stewards this. So yeah, I thought that's a great idea, guys. So 1% of winning bets online and on course unaffected. So that's another incentive to go on course. That you're not going to pay any duty. Like the old days. That's why people used to go on course. So it gives an incentive for people to go on course, thinking, well, if I'm having £1,000 on some, or I want 500 quid on something at threes, and I'm going to win £1,500. Well, and if that's £15, that buys a couple of drinks. There's lots of reasons and incentives to do things, and I think this formula is brilliant because the punters should pay something. We've got to pay. It's our sport. We've got to pay something. We keep moaning at the bookmakers, but the bookmakers can pay a statutory amount, so it's always fixed, and that should be linked on their profits. So whatever profits they are or market share they've got, the more they pay towards that 100 million, and that's how it works. And it's fair. Then it's fair across the board. No one's fighting. No one's moaning. And then, but in link with that, I want the BHA to sit down with the bookmakers and say, right, we are going to take a minimum liability on bets, and we're not going to close accounts. We're going to encourage people to bet rather than discourage people to bet, and we're going to lay a minimum bet amount each time, no matter who they are, whatever. Does it matter, right? And we're going to do it, and we're going to, even if it's £100, we're going to lay to lose £100, something like that. Guys, what do you think of this idea?
I can't fault it. I think it's excellent.
Punters won't mind, as you say. They've got to pay for something. Nothing's free, so that's the way punters make a contribution to the sport. I wouldn't have a problem with it personally.
Who's going to
1% in the old days, weren't there?
Yeah.
Who's going to miss 1%? Who's going to miss 1% to racing to help it out? To basically make it a more, because the thing is, we'll all be moaning if nothing's done in 3 or 4 years' time when it's even worse, and we've got fields of 0 to 55s and 0 to 60s, and the best horses are all off to King Kong, and they're racing in France for big French breeding premiums and big French, I know several French owners now that were in Britain, and they're making hay. It's if you've got a French bred and you pick up the French premiums on top of third place, one run third place with French premiums, you are looking at paying them your month's training.
Yeah.
I mean, it's different class. So
I'm liking the sound of it, Lee. I mean, we're in a way we're kind of heading back to those glory days of the mid 80s, and Putin's trying to put the old band together now, isn't he? And I can go to York and have 3/4 of a bottle of white satin before racing at Joe Muller's. Fantastic.
Well, like I said, and it incentivizes on course again. If you're moaning, well, go racing.
Absolutely.
Buy your Go Racing Yorkshire membership. Get cheap entry all season to Yorkshire tracks, and make sure you don't pay your 1% on your winning bets. And get some fresh air. And then everyone benefits. BHA, everyone, bookmakers stop moaning, but bookmakers have also got to come to the table and stop closing accounts like they have been. Speaking of which, the SCV obviously is always on the table in terms of podcasts now and people discussing it more. Just some interesting news about that the new Deputy Chief of Staff in Downing Street is David Canzini. Well, you might be saying, who's he? Never heard of him. Yep, you're right. I didn't either. But apparently I've heard, and obviously I've got some contacts in the MP world, and they're saying that he's very, very against SCV, very against, as in vociferously against SCV in terms of. So that is going to provide some hope to punters going forward, and we need to keep pressing this in terms of drumming home that this is bad for the
It's
sport.
all on you, Canzini. No,
It is. Mr. David Canzini is the new Deputy Chief of Staff, and he is against SCV. So
he
That's what it
sounds
is.
dynamic.
yeah, sounds like a forward that plays a winger that plays for Lazio, something like that.
Canzini!
It's definitely a footballer winger's name, isn't it?
Ah, yeah.
So anyway, we'll see how that goes.
And smacks one in the top corner.
Right, we'll finish off with two fun questions, which are quite good actually. Mike Owen's obviously a comedian because he starts by saying, "How many Cheltenham preview nights will you be attending?"
Fucking hell.
Absolutely. Couldn't do anything fucking worse. Honestly, I'd rather have my nasal hair permed than go to a Cheltenham preview evening. Dreadful.
But we're doing one. We're doing one this week.
To an actual, the one sitting above a pub and some old wankers from the press, and you get the usual kind of cliches. This stays longer than the mother-in-law, or I can't have this one. They won't kick it out the frame, or this is the best Jamie Codd's ever sat on. Couldn't do anything worse. Dreadful. Absolutely.
I mean, the best part about these nights, especially up north, because us boys love like a pie and peas and gravy, chucked in for a tenner.
Terrible.
None of these southern.
I went to one about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
At well, it might have been more than 3 years now, anyway, because Mary Ravely was still alive. She was on the panel. And
Cab on target.
I mean, she was only by then. She was only a little bit less gaga than Putin, and she was fancying every favourite that was running, everything Willie Mullins trained. James Ravely was on the panel, and he said, "Well, I don't really give a shit. I'll be riding at Pow." And the other one was Phil Kirby, who, well, I mean, he's normally a good listen, Phil, but he was completely switched off that night. After about 15 minutes, I was just trying to unravel my own bowels.
Greg, I couldn't hear it worse. Awful.
I can confess, I've never actually been to a Cheltenham preview night. Oh no, I have. That's a lie. The producer's just waving her hands like disgracefully. I have been to one. It's one that Brian Ellison did in.
I was going to say, didn't you ever have to mark Brian's card for all the ones he does?
It was one. So me and Koo, Christian Strangeway, turned up to one. I think Koo was on the panel, wasn't he? I think. Yeah. Anyway, it's a blur, but that's why it's a blur. Because I weren't switched on either. I were like playing with beer mats and making, like doing origami with beer mats.
Yeah. What I do with beer mats, I just tear a little triangle out, stick it on the bridge of my nose, and then turn around and say, "Who the fuck threw that?"
I put them in my shoes to cover up the holes, following all the tips. About 7 inches worth now, honestly.
All right. So Mike Owen set us off on Cheltenham preview nights, and Dupont Tom is going to finish the show. And it's quite a funny question, this, but it's for you, John. So me and Chris are we might as well just put Genesis on or something.
Yeah.
While you're answering this, but he says, for John, would you prefer? You've got 3 choices.
Yeah.
You've got to pay £90 to go to the Fez. £40 to a Fez preview night.
Oh, Christ.
Yeah. Or you've got to pay £50, or you've got to watch Borough Nil. Right.
So if I pay £50, I don't have to watch Borough Nil.
I
can just stay at home and not do anything else.
No. I think he means you've got to pay £50 to watch Borough Nil.
Oh my Christ.
So it's £40 of Fez. If it's good, so it's £90 to the Fez, £40 of Fez preview night, or £50 to go and watch the Borough.
I'd probably chance the Borough, only insofar as I might get lucky and Hitler might want to bet on something over the jumps. And if it falls, I'll make me 40 or 50 quid back, and I'll have the joy of him being pissed off for the rest of the afternoon.
John only used to like going at Borough matches because of Tony Pullis and his massive shoes.
It was an amazing thing to see, wasn't it? You know, I mean.
Yeah.
Somebody was on and said, "Who makes Tony Pulis's shoes?" And I said, "Harland and Wolff."
Charlie Corona as well.
5'5" and size 13, John.
Oh, that's very late. I mean, let's be fair. If a speedboat had been going past, he could have just tagged on and fucking skied.
Oh, superb. Right, that's a suitable time to end it. Thank you, Dupont Tom, for the final question. We're back on I say Wednesday. We're recording Wednesday. It'll be available Thursday for a Bar Stewards special. Yes, it's myself, John, Catherine Fry is in the chair.
And it'll be pure filth.
And we've got Irish piss in Declan Carroll joining the show for the first time. So we've got the Irish angle, which is what we need, isn't it? We need the bent plots. That's what we're all interested. We're not bothered about Shishkin and and Rocket and Blogger going, it's a Rocket.
I hope Declan knows his periodic table and what's had what.
So Declan Carroll will be joining. He'll be joining us for the first time, and it should be a corker. So stand by for that on Thursday, and then we're back on Friday again. If you haven't had enough for our bad tips, you can always press pink. I mean, God, if we're that bad, keep pressing pink. That's what I'd do. And then we're back as normal for next Sunday's sermon. So we hope you enjoyed the show, and that's all from me, John, and Chris for this week. Bye for now.
Right, the show's over, boys. Thank you very much.